Ciao everyone and welcome back to the last review of Natura Morta by Folkstone, because finally we reach the end of the album. As we said in all the previous episodes of Learn Italian with Songs, Natura Morta is the newest album by Folkstone and maybe the last one. I don't know. I will explain why it might be the last one in a few moments. But fun fact, this is going to be the last stream, for me at least, for Learn Italian with Songs. I didn't say video, I said stream. It means that all the other things you are going to watch, or all the other videos, won't be happening live directly on YouTube. I'm going to stream them live on Twitch and then re-upload the VODs, we could call the recordings, to YouTube. This is to avoid the technical issues such as the connection crashing and whatnot. We are going to talk about this more in the next vlog that I will do on the state of the channel. But just so you know, the Natura Morta series of lives will be the last one concerning the songs and also Duolingo, so I will keep the lives only for the updates. Everything else will be either recorded or streamed on Twitch and then uploaded to YouTube. But anyway, that said, let's talk about l'Ultima Thule, because l'Ultima Thule is the last track, the 16th of the album Natura Morta by Folkstone, and it is a cover. Exactly. So we had several collabs, featurings. We had a remake, Brindo otra vez, in Spanish, because the original version came from another album and was in Italian. And then we have l'Ultima Thule, which is closing the album. Is it closing the album? Is it closing something else? I don't know, but I'm going to explain. So, first of all, l'Ultima Thule is a song originally written by Francesco Guccini. I have to start by saying a couple of things concerning this songwriter, because the way the song is written is very peculiar. So, first thing first, who is Francesco Guccini? Well, Francesco Guccini is, and fun fact, is, I don't know for how long, like, knock on wood, but like, just to put it in perspective, he was born in 1940. He's more than 80 years old right now when I am recording. I wish him like many more years, but I was surprised when I checked that he's still alive. Now, he is an Italian songwriter, writer, actor, and teacher. So, how is this possible? Well, because the lyrics of his songs are often assimilated to poetic compositions. Do you remember when I said several times, careful when you listen to metal or specific types of music in Italian, because unlike pop songs, other genres of music in Italian are closer to poetry and literature than common spoken language, okay? So it is very elevated, it uses many Aulic terms. In this case, however, it's not only the vocabulary, okay? It is the theme, it is the way it is built. These lyrics could easily be taken and analyzed as a poem, okay? This is not like close to poetry. This is poetry, okay? This could be analyzed as a part of Italian literature, okay? And in fact, one of one of the lyrics of one of his songs was proposed as one of the options for a final high school exam as an example of contemporary poetry. Now, you have to know that in Italy, when we finish high school, we need to do the final exams, and the final exams are structured with several tests. Okay, we have to do many types of tests. It depends on the year, but generally there are two elements that are constant. One is the essay, so we have to stay for 6 hours writing an essay, and the other one is the characteristic subject, you could say, because when we pick our high school, we pick packages of subjects, and thus we have usually two main subjects that identify our ID subjects, identify our type of school. For example, in my case, it was Ancient Greek and Ancient Latin. So my second test was a translation, and each year they flip a coin to see if they are going to do Ancient Greek or Ancient Latin. In my case, it was Latin. So, but it changes every year. Usually they try to do 50-50. Anyway, so however, here we are talking about the first test, and the first test, as I was saying, is a short essay. Now, when we do this short essay, we have several options, we could say, and the first one, the one that is called type A, is the analysis of a poem. So we have to explain what the poem is talking about, translating it into common Italian, because of course the majority of the poems are in ancient Italian. Of course, they follow the syntax, vocabulary, and whatnot of poetry, and thus they have to be translated into common Italian. As I was saying, one of the songs was proposed for the type A of short essay. It means that at a certain point in Italian history, students from all over Italy saw their options to write their essay, and as option for the analysis of a poem, we had a lyrics of Francesco Guccini. I don't remember which one. If you are curious, you can ask in the comments. I'm going to provide you with sources, but just because it wasn't an exception, all his lyrics are like this, okay? And I want to stress this point as much as I can, because what we are about to analyze is, in fact, can be considered a poem which was sung. And you're like, oh, weird, Silvia, like a sung poem. Well, remember, keep in mind that originally many poems we study at school were sung because they were taking advantage of the poetry metrics, which was easier to sing, since if you build in each language the sentences in a certain way, giving a certain rhythm, it is almost automatic singing them. A great examples are the Iliad, the Odyssey. They are written in poetry, and they are easier to remember because they follow a scheme, and they were sung as songs. The ballads are nothing but poetry sung, and in fact this could be considered a ballad because it is a sung poem, okay? Now, what about, however, the original? Because we know that l'Ultima Thule is the 16th and last track of Natura Morta by Folkstone, but what about Francesco Guccini? Now, the song is the last track from the album of the same name, so l'Ultima Thule, released in 2012 with Guccini, which Guccini has defined as his last album, a definitive farewell to the scene. So the whole album was titled L'Ultima Thule, and the closing track was in fact L'Ultima Thule with these lyrics we are about to talk about. Sorry for the repetition. And that's why it could be that this is a way for Folkstone to also say we might retire, or at least this closes a chapter. It could also be simply the end of the album. I don't know. But given that they, like the band, got together and made this album, because before they split, it could be that they either want to rework the band or they want to retire, which, I mean, fair point. It is a fair choice. But again, it could also be simply a way to close the album. But now the other question is, what is this L'Ultima Thule? Okay, L'Ultima Thule, if I had to translate it literally, would be the last Thule. What is this Thule, Ultima Thule? Which, fun fact, originally it's not Italian. Ultima Thule is Latin, because the Ultima Thule is the mythological most northerly location mentioned in ancient Greek and Roman literature and cartography. So you have to imagine that, according to the Romans and the ancient Greeks, you go north, and at certain point you reach this place which is as north as you can go. First written of by the Greek explorer Pytheas of Massalia in about 320 before Christ. In classical and medieval literature, Ultima Thule, Latin farthest Thule, as I said, like the last, because ultimo means the last, in this case, the farthest, acquired a metaphorical meaning of any distant place located beyond the borders of the known world, because, of course, it was mythological. It means that once you get there, the world has ended. It represents a man's final journey towards death, conceived as definitive and silent landing. And in fact, this is the whole point of the lyrics. It is the description from the point of view of Guccini of what death is a representation of his death. Okay, basically here he is saying this is going to be my death, of course artistically speaking, as in the end of my music career, but potentially also his natural death, because of course he did this around 10 years ago, so he was around 70. When you are an elder, of course you start thinking about these things, so it makes sense. Now, let's all this premise, and now we can check the lyrics. Okay. A moment, because talking about issues concerning the Okay, we got it, chat, we got it. So, I know that you would expect something like verse, pre-chorus, chorus, post-chorus. No. This is a poem, and as a poem has verses. So we have 4 verses if you want. Otherwise, if you want to see it from the perspective of a musician, it would be 3 verses and an outro. But if we see it as a poem, it is 4 verses. Now, what is in these 3 verses? First of all, the first 3 verses are built with 3 sections. So I will go section by section. So, io che ho doppiato 3 volte Capo Horn. I who have rounded 3 times Cape Horn. E ho navigato 7 volte i 7 mari. And have sailed 7 times the 7 seas. Ho visto mostri ed animali rari. I have seen monsters and rare animals. L'anfesibena, le sirene, l'unicorno. The amphisbane, the sirens, the unicorn. Now, Cape Horn or Cape Horn in Italian. What is this? It's the southernmost headland of the Tierra del Fuego archipelago of southern Chile. So, it is basically the opposite of the Ultima Thule, if you will, because it's the the southest inhabited place in the world, if you don't count, of course, the South Pole. And I don't know if it is made on purpose. Probably it is, knowing the author, concerning the fact that, as I told you, l'Ultima Thule mentioned explicitly at the end of the song is the northernmost point. Here we have the southest, okay? And of course he's saying, in a nutshell, I did many things in my life. I traveled a lot, in this way around 3 times Cape Horn. I sailed 7 times the 7 seas. This is an alliteration, a repetition. I've seen monsters and rare animals, and he mentions 3 of them. So we have Amphisibena, which in English I think is Amphisbane, something like that. And it is a mythological ant-eating serpent with a head at each end. Literally, Amphisibena means headed from both extremities. Le sirene, which are the sirens, because we are talking about Roman and ancient Greek mythology, and let's remember that the mermaids, okay, are from the northern mythology. Our sirene, because we call sirene both the sirens and the mermaids. Why? Because in Latin mythology we don't have the mermaids, so like the little mermaids with the fish thing. No, we had the sirens, so half women, half birds, we could say. They were pretty much doing the same jobs of the mermaids in the Norse mythology, by the way. But we have the sirens and the unicorn. Now, I'm sure that all these, we could have separate videos on the symbology of these mythological creatures, because we have the sirens promising you everything you want to hear and then destroying you, so like the forbidden knowledge. The unicorn, so something extremely rare, usually associated with purity. The Amphisibena or Amphisbane with both heads on both sides, so a little bit probably like an Ouroboros. I don't know, but generally the idea is I did many things in my life. Io che tornavo fiero ad ogni porto. I who returned proud to every port. Dopo una lotta, dopo un arrembaggio. After a fight, after a boarding. Non son più quello e non ho più il coraggio. I am no longer the same and I no longer have the courage di veleggiare su un vascello morto. To sail on a dead vessel. Now, we have once again the hint at the fact that he lived a great life. He did many things every time he came back, because here the ship represents a bit his life, okay? So every time he was doing a trip, so he was living an experience, it was a win. And he's saying, there is a transition here. I am no more that person, that winner, because my life feels dead. Then we have sono, truncation of sono, I am, and veleggiare, normally in Italian, more common word we would say navigare. Veleggiare, however, matches perfectly English, because in English you have the sails, so the part of the boat which gather the wind to move the boat, the ship, and then you have the verb to sail. Following the same reasoning, we have la vela, the sail, and veleggiare, to sail, from the same root. Dov'è la ciurma che mi accompagnava? Where is the crew that accompanied me? E assecondava ogni ribalderia, and indulge every ribaldry. Dov'è la forza che ci circondava? Where is the strength that surrounded us? Ormai ora si è spenta, ormai sparita via. Now it's gone, at this point, disappeared. Ok, dov'è la ciurma? As I said, this boat, this ship, this vessel represents the life of our narrator, of our poet, and the disappearance of the crew is a reference of a very common phenomenon of old age, because you lose many people you loved in your life. You lose friends, you lose your partner, you lose people. So in a certain way, this metaphor is, I lost the important people that accompanied me in my life. Now, we have a very peculiar word, ribalderia. It is very Aulic, completely not used. And fun fact, it is the derivation of ribaldo. Now, what does it mean, ribalderia? Since it comes from ribaldo, the next question is, what is a ribaldo? Okay, it comes from the ancient French, because in Italy we like to loan words from other languages, of course, and it comes from the Germanic root that in nowadays German evolved into Reiben, so prostitute, okay? In fact, the Germanic root is Shiba. In Old French, it became ribot, something like that, and was adopted in Italian as ribaldo. Now, what is a ribaldo? Nothing positive, because if in common German evolved in prostitute, you can imagine. So, in medieval armies, this was the name given to the soldiers of humble condition who were entrusted with the task of starting the battle, or who went plundering in the wake of the knights, and also the servants, the predators, the crowd, and all the non-combatants who, following the militia, managed to enter the camps. So they were the lowest camps you could find in military encampment. For all of you who know a bit of history, I think we can understand each other. So, what is a ribaldry? Una ribalderia? It is a vulgarity, so like a vulgar adventure, like a mischief. something negative, so an adventure, but in a negative way. Probably here it is again a reference to all those people who would do anything for you. You know, the meme about the friend that if you call them telling them that you killed someone, they asked, what do you want, like, where do you want to bury the corpse? Sort of situation. Of course, Guccini is not that. He was going around beating people. So just to be clear, because nowadays you never know. Now, another important thing, as I said, is the structure of the lyrics. Why? Because it is full of repetitions, it rhymes. Here we can see that it rhymes like A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, A, B, A, B, and has a very specific rhythm. So, io che ho doppiato 3 volte Capo Horn e ho navigato 7 volte i 7 mari, ho visto mostri ed animali rari, l'anfesibena, le sirene, l'unicorno. Io che tornavo fiero ad ogni porto, dopo una lotta, dopo un arrembaggio, non son più quello e non ho più il coraggio di veleggiare su un vascello morto, dove la ciurma che mi accompagnava e assecondava ogni ribalderia, dove la forza che ci circondava ora si è spenta, ormai sparita via. If you hear how it sounds in Italian, even without singing it, has a very rhythmic rhythm, okay? So, of course, there is the whole part of putting it in music, which is very important. Great job, Guccini. But per se, the lyrics already has a very musical rhythm, which is peculiar of poetry already. For example, it rhymes in a very specific way. Each line has a specific amount of syllables that, read as I read them, already give a specific rhythm. A good example is the last line of this verse, where there is a lot of repetition. Ora, ormai, which is ora is now, ormai it is at this point. They are synonyms. And you see this repetition, no? Both because of the alliteration and the repetition also to stress the meaning. And then we have si è spenta, sparita, another alliteration. Alliteration is when you repeat several times the same sound. It is something that our human brain really likes. That's why you find it often in poetry and, of course, in songs. And then we have sparita via, which is not really Italian, as in is not common Italian, but here it is used due to rhythm and rhyming needs, because he needed something rhyming with ribalderia, because normally è sparita, it means it disappeared. Sparita via is a bit of a repetition, and usually you use it in the collocation andare via, to go away. Via in this type of collocations it means away. So in this, if I had to translate it literally, it would be disappeared away. So this last line is a very good example of using repetition meaning-wise and sound-wise to stress a concept and to close the verse. Then we have the second verse, same structure of the first one. Guardo le vele pendere afflosciate. I watch the sails hang limp. Con i cordami a penzolar nel vuoto, with the ropes dangling in the void, che sbatton lenti contro le murate, that flap slowly against the gunwale. Con un moto continuo senza scopo, with a continuous motion aimless. So we have guardo le vere pendere, i cordami a penzolar. Now, If, as we said, the ship, the boat, is a metaphor for the life, and the crew represents the loss of people dear to us, our beloved people in our life, what does it mean if the ship is damaged? The most common reading of this is the loss of strength, courage, of old age, because of course, despite many people not wanting to admit it, old age comes with health issues, of course. If you take care of yourself, you will be able to postpone a bit, but old age, by definition, is described by the loss of strength, the loss of health in your body, which is in like any type of literature, poetry, opposed to the strength of youth. So we have this metaphor of the ship like falling to pieces as the human body falling into pieces, like so losing strength, and the loss of the crew, as in the loneliness coming from losing our friends and beloved people in our life. Then we have penzolar and sbutton, another truncation needed because of the rhythm. And we have murate, little technical explanation. Keep in mind that this is all a metaphor centered on the ship, on boats. So we have many terms that are nautical terms, also technical. We have muro, wall. We have mura, walls. Murata, or plural murate, is specifically the walls of the ship, so the gunwales. If you don't know what it is, please go check. Just type gunwale on Google because I am not a sailor, so I can't really explain much more than that. Then we have, for example, I cordami. Normally you would have la corda, plural, le corde, the rope, the ropes. I cordami is a collective noun describing the set of ropes specifically from a ship, because of course ships have many ropes. E vedo in aria un'insensata danza, and I see in the air a senseless dance, di strani uccelli contro il cielo bigio, of strange birds against the ashen sky. Cantare un canto in questo mondo grigio, sing a song in this grey world, un canto sordo ormai senza speranza, a dull song now without hope. Nothing much that I can add, to be fair. It is just the way he sees death approaching due to the loss of strength and the loneliness given by old age. E qui da solo penso al mio passato, and here alone I think about my past. Vado a ritroso e frugo la mia vita. I go back and search my life. Una saga smarrita ed infinita, a lost and endless saga di quel che ho fatto, di quel che è stato, of what I've done, of what has been. This is another example of something that happens a lot during old age, where you are basically always melancholic and nostalgic because the best of your life already passed. So you feel weak, you feel lonely, and you basically live in memories. And yeah, this is a representation of this. So, how does it sound this second verse? Guardo le vele pendere afflosciate, con i cordami a penzolar nel vuoto, che sbatton lenti contro le murate con un moto continuo senza scopo. E vedo in aria un'insensata danza di strani uccelli contro il cielo bigio, cantare un canto in questo mondo grigio, un canto sordo ormai senza speranza. E qui da solo penso al mio passato, vado a ritroso e frugo la mia vita, una saga smarrita ed infinita di quel che ho fatto, di quel che è stato. Here, for example, we even have the triple rhyme at the end, but also within the line. And also we have, despite the technical nautical terms, we have, for example, bigio, which it is a synonym of grigio, gray. Bigio is defined as more ashen, but fun fact, the etymology of this word is not sure. And then we have frugare. Now, frugare is to search, but it is usually, to give you some context, when you use frugare in Italian, is to search as, for example, you lost your lipstick, your lip balm in your bag, and so you search your bag. In this way, it pictures the action of having something full of objects, and you are basically digging in, searching between the things. It's something you do a lot, for example, when you have to reorder, to give away things and whatnot. So in this way, like, he, as I said, lived a full life. He's full of these memories, and we have this image about searching among the memories. Like, you could search for objects in an old attic, full of trinkets of your life. And then we have the third verse, le verità non vere in cui credevo, the untrue truths I believed in. Scoppiavano spargendosi d'intorno, exploded spreading around, ma altre ne avevo e giorno dopo giorno, but I had others I had, and day after day, and day by day, se morivo più forte rinascevo. If I died, stronger I was reborn. Again, another reference to the good old times when he was strong, because even if he was convincing himself of like lies, because let's be honest, we all do these things when we are young. We live off, mainly when we are teenagers, we live off absolute truth. Then we become older and wiser, hopefully, and we understand that reality and the world is more complex than that. It is more a nuance of color, like a group of nuance of colors, more than a reality in black and white. And that's why he says verità non vere, untrue truths. And of course, you face those untrue truths. I swear to God, it's a tongue twister to say this. And of course, at certain point, they pop because you realize that it's what you are convinced about is not true. But you find something else, because this is part of the strength of being young. And in fact, he says, if I died, metaphorically, of course, stronger I was reborn. So this very direct, very clear image of strength in youth. E ora son solo e non ho più il conforto. And now I am alone and no longer have the comfort. Di amici andati e sempre più mi assale, of friends gone and I'm increasingly assailed, overwhelmed. La noia a vuotar l'ultimo boccale, by the boredom and the bother of emptying the last mug. Come un pensiero che mi si è ritorto, like a thought that has twisted itself against me. Now, we have classic truncations because of metric needs, and then we have a specific a specific way this is built. Since there is the stop of the line, I had to reverse, I have to remanipulate the translation, but in Italian it is sempre più mi assale la noia. So, la noia mi assale sempre più. The boredom, the bother overwhelms me increasingly. This would be the literal thing, the literal translation. However, I had to reverse it because it didn't fit the metrics. So, here we have la noia. Noia in Italian commonly is boredom. When you are annoiato or annoiata, so you feel noia, it's because you are bored. So la noia commonly is the boredom. However, originally it was more about feeling bothered. In fact, has the same roots of annoyed and as ennuyeux in French, which is more like when something bothers you. Like if in Italian you say sono annoiato, it is I am bored. But if in English you say I am annoyed, it means like I am bothered by something. Now, noia with the meaning of bother, so like something bothering you, it is mainly kept in some dialects. In Italian, standard Italian nowadays, the common standard nowadays spoken Italian is boredom. It is still kept in certain idiomatic expressions. So, for example, venire a noia is something like that bothers you, like usually with something happens so often or you are in contact with a certain phenomenon or events that it starts bothering you. In that case, keeps the meaning of to bother, but generally is more relating to be bored. It is more used with the meaning of bother in the Tuscan dialect, because, for example, dare noia, it means to bother someone, to give annoyance, okay? But again, in standard common Italian, I can't guarantee you the second meaning because the main meaning kept nowadays is boredom. But since here this double meaning was important, I am giving it to you. So, once again, we start the verse with how it was before, and we transition towards what it is now. So, we had someone with a lot of strength in their youth. Now, however, there is mainly here it is a hinting at the loneliness because he's explicitly saying my friends are gone. I don't have the comfort of my friends because they are no more. And he says, I am overwhelmed by this idea, this thought of emptying the last mug, which is like it makes sense because if we think about it, we had this image of the last mug, the last drink. In Italian is called il bicchiere della staffa. I know there is an idiomatic expression also in English to the country of pubs to designate the last drink served in a pub. It just that doesn't come to mind. Or generally the your last drink, okay? And we had it in Natura Morta, also in La fabbrica dei perdenti, if I remember correctly. And then the last section of the third verse. Ma ancora farò vela e partirò, but again I'll set sail and leave. Io, da solo, e anche se sfinito, I, alone, and even though exhausted, la prua indirizzo verso l'infinito. The bow I point toward infinity. Che prima o poi, lo so, raggiungerò, which sooner or later I know I'll reach. Of course, here we are talking about the last trip, where he is exhausted towards infinity. What is infinite? Death. And so basically I am about to do my last to set sail one last time. So how does it sound in Italian? Le verità non vere in cui credevo scoppiavano spargendosi d'intorno, ma altre ne avevo e giorno dopo giorno, se morivo più forte rinascevo. E ora son solo e non ho più il conforto di amici andati e sempre più mi assale la noia a vuotar l'ultimo boccale come un pensiero che mi si è ritorto. Ma ancora farò vela e partirò, io da solo e anche se sfinito, la prua indirizzo verso l'infinito che prima o poi, lo so, raggiungerò. And one last thing that I forgot, fare vela is a poetic way and uncommon, of course, expression to say to set sail. It's closer to the collocation to set sail, we use the verb fare. However, as I said, same thing for veleggiare. Veleggiare and fare vela are aulic, poetic, uncommon ways to say navigare, which is the most common way to say to sail in Italian. And then, as I said, we have the last part. You can call it outro, you can call it the fourth verse, it depends on your perspective, but it is different because as we saw so far, we had verse 1, 1, 2, 3 section. Verse 2, 1, 2, 3 sections. Verse 3, 1, 2, 3 sections. Outro, only 2. I have a theory. I will explain my theory. First, let's read. L'ultima Thule attende al nord estremo. Ultima Thule awaits in the far north. Regno di ghiaccio eterno, senza vita. Eternal kingdom of ice, lifeless. E lassù, questa mia sarà finita. And up there, this will be my end. Nel freddo, dove tutti finiremo. In the cold, where we will all end. Now, literally speaking, it is regno di ghiaccio eterno, senza vita, lassù questa mia vita sarà finita. He is basically playing with vita, where mia, my, it is my life, mia vita. So, literally speaking, it would be eternal kingdom of ice without life, and up there, this implied life of mine will be ended. L'ultima Thule attende è dentro il fiordo. Ultima Thule awaits and inside the fjord. Si spegnerà per sempre ogni passione. Will be extinguished forever every passion. Si perderà in un'ultima canzone. It will be lost in one last song. Di me e della mia nave anche il ricordo. Of me and my ship, even the memory. Where, as we said several times, this ship, this boat, is the metaphor for his life. So, we are going north. That's why we find the fjords, because according to the Roman mythology and Greek mythology, Ultima Thule was around Iceland, ideally, because of course the Romans and the Greeks went north. At certain point they only found ice and snow and said, you know what, fuck that, like we don't go up north. Probably they heard from other populations coming from the north, or some explorers who managed to go and find Iceland, because we know that, of course, even the Vikings were going around a little bit later than the Romans. But if the Vikings managed to even inhabit Iceland, chances are that someone had some kind of idea that Iceland was there. Could also be someone who managed to reach Scotland and found some, I don't know, very cold island up there. But generally speaking, it is this reference to the fjords refers to what, like, the geo I don't know, basically the shape of the earth in the up north. And here, passione is passion, but not as you might think. So in English, just like in Italian, in common English, passione as passion is like related to love, right? Or like when you are very convinced about something, very passionate about something, okay? Here, however, I think is not about extreme interest, is not about conviction, is not about love, but it is closer to the original term, which comes from ancient Greek pathos, as in feeling. So all my feelings will be extinguished. Usually spegnere is the verb in Italian we use for the fire, so to put out the fire. And here it is any feeling. Usually the feelings and emotions are what makes us, well, human. So when your life ends, everything that makes you human ends with you. So that's pretty much the whole point. Also, the last line, is repeated 2 times. And we have the final description of what death is. So, an eternal kingdom of ice, lifeless, so something cold, something lifeless. Again, something cold, we keep repeating it. Something where, somewhere where we all go, something that touches all of us. Something that puts out all that makes us human, so all of us. And also, he's not saying, I was a great poet, I made a lot of music, surely people are going to talk about me. No, he actually says, at certain point, my life, my ship, will be forgotten. People will not retain the memories of me forever. So at certain point, everything will be lost. And this is how he sees death, basically. This is all, from the point of view of Guccini, what an end of a life, specifically his life, is. Now, what left me puzzled here is the fact that normally the whole point of Natura Morta as an album, the core concept, is what we could call the collateral beauty. So the glint of hope, the little light that we can find in an eternity of darkness. So when, in other words, when everything goes to shit, there is always something, you can always find something positive. Now, here I don't see it. Like, the Ultima Thule by Guccini is very pessimistic. and maybe not pessimistic, but quite resigned. So I have nobody. I feel weak. I feel my end is approaching, so soon I will do my last trip. So like the journey is ending. Um, yes, there is this thing where he talks about the fact that he had good times, he lived a full life. But generally, in all the songs of this album, there is always, I don't know, brindo otra vez. Everything is going to shit, but we party, we drink, even if it's the last party. Sulla riva, there is hope because finally I found the courage to save myself. Persia, I'll still have I don't give up on having my voice heard. I will keep fighting. Scarpe rotte, I lived a long life and I have a lot of pleasant memories. La fabbrica dei perdenti, everything goes to shit. We are always about to give up, but we never do. Ma la tempora current is only instrumental. Mediterraneo is more of a provocation, so like you need to take a side in the genocide that is happening. Then we have Fragile, which is like basically a positive pop song. Resta qui, again, resta qui, like stay here, so stay. Macerie, I will keep looking for you no matter what I'll have to go through. Natura Morta, again, you have a glint of hope because it's basically like a prayer to something bigger than us. Lacrime di marmo is more like to call out exploitative matters concerning nature. Vuoto a perdere, again, is more like I feel empty, but I still feel like there is my inner child still there. Appennino is nature is going to heal me. And Alabastro is very poetic, very how can I say, very tragic, but the journey keeps going. Like it is a little bit the opposite of l'ultima Thule, because the last line of Alabastro is il mio cuore randagio in un altro universo, si specchia nelle stelle, naviga. My wanderer heart in another universe is mirrored in the stars and sails. So, in a certain way, if Alabastro starts the journey, the sailing, Ultima Thule ends it. But the issue is that Ultima Thule by Guccini is extremely resigned. Okay, it is my journey's ended. We are all going there. It is what it is. Peace. It's not tragic, but it is very quiet. Okay, which makes sense for the style of Guccini. I don't know. It feels a bit weird. It makes sense because, if, as I said, if Alabastro starts the journey, Ultima Thule ends it. But you can clearly see that Folkstone adopted the style of someone else, because it's not the style of the other songs, which can be a hint for something else that has to come. It can be simply a symbol because they wanted to pay a tribute to Guccini and they picked this to close the album and probably close their career. I don't know. But yeah, generally, it's for me, l'Ultima Thule is very unsettling, and it makes sense because it's a little bit the point. You have the positivity, as in a person who lived a full life, so it is ready to go, but the description of death is cold, is alone, is weakness, is infinite, is nothing. It is a conception of death very close to oblivion, okay, where there is nothing. While Natura Morta was supposed to be more about collateral beauty. I understand that the collateral beauty is like, yes, it is oblivion, but you lived a full life. But still, I was a bit confused. Anyway, so I hoped you enjoyed this journey throughout the whole album Natura Morta by Folkstone. I hope you enjoyed this analysis of l'Ultima Thule, cover of the song, the same song by Francesco Guccini. Let me know in the comments what you think about Ultima Thule or generally Natura Morta as a whole, since now we finished. That said, I hope you enjoyed. Grazie everyone for watching and arrivederci.